listening to Neil Young, ex-member of the Buffalo Springfield.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Qobuz Live on Thursday. I am very happy to have a very special guest with us, Mr. Phil Baker from the Neil Young Archives. He's the CEO, and we'll be talking to Phil over the next hour, maybe even hour and a half. We're just going to keep going until we both get tired of hanging out, and then we'll let everybody go. But we are very excited to have him here today. Before we get started, I'm going to tell you a little bit about Qobuz, just for the folks that don't necessarily know. We've got now over 70 million tracks, up to 24,192. They're bit perfect FLAC files, and we have not messed with them in any way. Neil seems to like this quite a bit. We just got the entire Neil Young collection, or a good bit of it, in 24,192. He's been a huge proponent of high resolution for, really, I think Neil was maybe one of the very first big stars that just started really talking about it a lot. We'll talk about that as we get into the show. But stop by and check us out. We've got really a whole lot of great selections in high resolution. We've also got a download store, which is really cool. We love supporting artists. So if you are the type that likes to own your own music, or are the type that just wants to support your favorite artist, this is a really great way to do this. I just pulled up the Neil. I did this one last week as well, when we got the Neil Young collection in. But just a regular civilian can buy this wonderful album, and really most of the others like it, for $20. But we've got a Sublime membership for $25 a month, that if you are a big downloader, you can get this album plus all kinds of others for this kind of price point. So it's like $10.99 for the full 24,192 harvest. And if you haven't heard this in 24,192, I got to tell you, you are probably missing a good bit. Another really cool thing about Qobuz is our editorial. We are big music lovers. That's one of our taglines. We are the music lovers. But to kind of prove that, we have just got all kinds of editorial all over our site, from panoramas to suggestions to stories on your favorite artists, specials all the time that are coming out. And so that's really interesting, and it's not real expensive these days anyway. We started out at $25 a month. Not long after that, we moved to $15 per month. So you get 70 million cuts for about $15 a month if you pay monthly. If you pay annually, you'll get that same thing for about $12.50 per month, which is unheard of. Just a couple of years ago, not long at all, the lower services were running somewhere around this number, but now you can get all of this stuff in full and high resolution audio, which is pretty incredible. So I want to kind of cut this part of it short a bit, because I want to bring on our guest, Phil Baker. Hey, buddy, how are you?
Hey, David, how are you? Great to be here.
Yeah, it's you've got quite an interesting background on you, sir. So
Thank you.
I was talking to Phil the other day, and I'm going, well, why don't you send me, some of your background, and let me know what you've done, because Phil and I only met like, what was 4 or 5 weeks ago, something like that. Dan and myself were on the phone with Phil, and we had a great conversation. We got off of the line with this humble man, and with all kinds of information at his fingertips. We just had a great time on the conversation. Both of us joined immediately to the Neil Young Archives, which that's what Phil's doing now. But I'd like to give you a little bit of background, because I know that Phil won't. He'll go, oh yeah, I'm some guy that, made some products and stuff, but it's so much more than that. Phil has been involved in all aspects of product development for consumer technology market his entire career. He has a strong and varied background in business and product strategy in the high technology sector. Phil played key roles in developing the innovative flagship technology for products of many leading companies, including Apple, Seiko, Polaroid, Atari, Polycom, Proxima, Think Outside, and of most interest to me, and I think maybe most interest to most of the folks that are listening, Phil was instrumental in the Pono project, which we were all, I got to tell you, almost everybody in the audio industry, Phil, we were behind that. I mean, as soon as the Kickstarter came on, me and the people in my company, we just all had to have one. So we all went on and supported this, but I believe this was like the third most successful Kickstarter program in the history of Kickstarter. And it was really kind of all due to Neil's undying commitment to high resolution audio. So to me, that project was an incredible project, and Phil helped with that. Phil, tell me, yeah, I know you've written books and all of this stuff, all kinds of cool stuff. You wrote from concept to consumer, right?
Right. That was the first book I wrote, and that was about 15 years ago. And that was a book about product design. At the time, I had been working in hardware design and for a number of companies, including Apple and others. And people would come to me and ask they said, I have a product idea. How do I make it happen? How do I get it developed and bring it to market? And so I was working with a number of entrepreneurs and people. And I said, why don't I just write a book about it and put some of the guidance in a book, and it would help more people with less effort and less cost for them. And so that was the first book that I wrote, and it's still around. And
neat.
I like to tell people that it's got a great cover, and I like to say you can judge this book by the cover, but it's a relatively easy read, but it's just got a lot of experience that I learned over the years, all the mistakes I've made, and it's a little bit, I wouldn't say it's out of date, but things have moved along since then. But it's got a I think a good basic explanation of how do you get a product to market and what are the pitfalls. And probably the one important theme is the idea is the easy part. The tough part is all the rest.
In this book, you talk about how to optimize the entire product development process, making everything work seamlessly from planning and engineering through the distribution and marketing. I can tell you from hard experience that's got to be a pretty good chunk of the book, because I personally, on my side with a company that I was running in the past, we messed up on that big time. Phil talks in this book also about optimizing timing for the perfect release, because you can have the perfect product, but if you release it at the wrong time, it could absolutely fail. He talks about leveraging Asian manufacturing without falling victim to its pitfalls, which there are many, and how to coordinate the most complex world product delivery programs, which all of that is like really, really interesting. And you were telling me about a story that, because I asked you, pretty much straight out, we were talking about this book, and I'm going, how can you tell us how you actually met? You guys met? How did you and Neil get together?
Sure. When I wrote the book, I never expected it to lead. And actually, the book led to meeting Neil Young. I had written the book, and a friend of mine handed it to an acquaintance of him who was um, turned out to be somebody that was helping Neil trying to develop a product. And the individual handed Neil the book one time, and that led to a call from this person, Craig Kellman, who is now the CEO of Atlantic Records. And I got a call one Saturday afternoon from Craig and said, "Hey, I've got Neil on the phone. He wants to talk to you." I said, Neil Young? And that was my first introduction, a phone call. And Neil explained that he was trying to develop a music player. He wanted something that was no compromise. He wanted to deliver quality audio to the masses.
So this was like before the product had ever even started.
Well, it had started, and he said he worked with a big consulting company, and they put in, I think it was $500,000, and all they had were a couple of PowerPoint presentations. So they knew something was wrong. So he said,
yeah, because music doesn't come from PowerPoint presentations.
No. And they were dealing with a very large consultancy in Silicon Valley, and I was in San Diego at the time. So he asked if I'd come up and meet with him. So I said, sure, why not? So I was, all of a sudden I went back to my bookshelf. I said, boy, I better read up on audio, because I'm not an audio expert. I'm a product development expert. So I read up on some of my old books, tried to remember what FLAC was and all the various formats. And I prepared to go meet with Neil the following week. And interestingly, I told my son I was going to be meeting with Neil Young. My son, Dan, has a restaurant in Marin, and he and his wife run a restaurant in a town of Ross. And he said to me,
so he probably sees if he's in Marin, he probably sees his fair share of celebrities.
He does. And David, what he said to me, in fact, was, I have a lot of celebrities that come into the restaurant, and let me give you some advice, Dad. If you're going to meet Neil Young, you don't want to ooh and ah. You want to treat him like a regular person. That's the way these people want to be treated. And, my son had entertained members of Metallica and other celebrities. So he was giving me his best advice, and he was concerned I might be a little bit too gaga. So I said, okay, Dan, thanks. And this parting advice to me was, and Dad, what you don't want to ever do is ask for their autograph. I said, okay, fine, I'll take your advice. So the next week I flew up and met with Neil and on his ranch in Northern California. And we had a good conversation, and we told me what he was trying to do. I told him what I thought I could do to help. And we decided I would follow up with a proposal. And as I was leaving, Neil said to me, Phil, before you leave, would you do me a favor? I said, sure. And he asked me to sign my book that he had. So I was very surprised.
What a great story. I mean, did you say to him, Neil, I don't do that kind of thing. I'm far above that.
I said, I'm a celebrity. I don't sign books. No,
right, exactly.
No, in fact, and I think it was maybe 6 months later that I ended up getting his autograph. And that was when he came out with his book, and he was signing copies in exchange for contribution to the bridge school that he had supported. And I asked him then to autograph the book, and I at the same time gave him a donation. So I felt that was equitable. But I think it also reflects on Neil's character as well. He's just a very easygoing, very nice guy.
Yeah, he's just one of those guys that I've always wanted to sit down and have a beer with. He's just that kind of a person. because he's just got so much in his head. I finished not too long ago the Laurel Canyon special. I think it was on Netflix, but
Yes.
it was just absolutely fascinating to see what kind of an influence he had when he dropped in on that crowd. It was like a lot of the younger people won't understand this, but it was like E.F. Hutton speaking. When Neil when Neil spoke,
Yeah.
everybody just
Right.
totally
I
shut
remember
up
that.
and listened to
Yeah.
this guy. It was if you haven't seen that show, I got to tell you, I could not recommend it any more highly. If you're a fan of that era of music, I've never seen anything like it. It was just so in depth within their personal lives. Well, it's one thing to read a book and go, hey man, can you help me out? But Phil really had a lot of education behind this book. He never even mentioned this to me when we were talking, but I'm thinking, wow, he writes. I could write that book. I mean, I've done this kind of stuff before, but then I went just a few days ago. I'm going, this guy's just like entirely too humble to tell me what's really going on, because this can't be the whole story. So I started looking up I start looking up your background, Phil, and it says so Phil received a Bachelor of Science in Physics from Worcester Polytech Institute, Master of Science in engineering from Yale, and an MBA from Northeastern University, and you hold more than 30 patents. So really, if you kind of dig a little bit under the surface, you were like, wow, Neil picked the perfect guy to help him get this project off of the ground. It didn't necessarily happen, but boy, you were really the perfect kind of person to be consulting with him on this kind of project.
Well, and what was interesting is I was not an audio expert. I had worked on audio products with audio experts over the years, but this was really I really learned a lot. Most of the people in your audience probably know as much as I do. Um, I never realized, and I came to this project as as an engineer and as with a science and a physics background. And when Neil explained to me what was going on in the industry, I was just aghast. What he explained was, and what was motivating him to develop the Pono was that the audio technology, um, the audio technology that existed in the high tech world was getting worse over time, and it was
This
always, yeah, it was like other technologies would be getting better. So videos were getting better, photo quality was getting better, but audio was getting worse. And it just didn't make much sense to me because, we always looked at technology and thought, gee, everything is getting better with technology. Technology is, speeding up wireless, it's giving us all these new capabilities. And yet in the audio field, everything was getting worse. We went from, vinyl that was really high quality to CD, and now we were going to MP3. And it was
Yeah,
all
right. And
done.
like the CDs, I mean, really for like the first 10 years, most CDs really didn't sound that great, right? So I could
That's
see
right.
like from vinyl and at that point to CD. About what year are we talking about here, Phil?
So, you mean when I met Neil?
Well, yeah, that and around the time you guys started working
Yeah,
on
it
the
was around 2012. It was about 10 or 11, 9 or 10 years ago.
yeah.
And at the, and CD was pretty much the standard, and that people realized that the CD wasn't as good as it was cracked up to be and how it was positioned when it first came out. It had its own issues.
Perfect music
So
forever. What are you talking about?
that's right. That's right. So when Neil explained what he was trying to do and the difference in audio, and when we could listen, it was pretty dramatic. And, you know, the reason why audio was getting worse was because of trying to, the hardware companies like Apple trying to fit the files into a format that was convenient for us. You know, they didn't want us to carry 100 tunes in our iPod. They wanted us to carry 10,000 tunes, and so that led to the prevalence of MP3 and compressed music. But what was happening over the time was that the original reasons for compressing music, cost of memory, and so forth, were going away. You know, memory costs were dropping, you know, by orders of magnitude every couple of years. And what the cost of wireless sending files over the wireless networks, cellular or Wi-Fi, were dropping in cost, and yet the technology stagnated in the music industry, and more streaming services came out at low res, and just never really adapted to the improvements in the technology that was available.
This is just in case you never saw the Pono player. This was it. And Neil opened up a store to buy high-res downloads. Plus, there was probably, I don't know, a half dozen places on the internet at that time that you could, or they were just getting going, that you could start buying full-res and high-res music to actually put on the player. I bought one pretty much immediately. As soon as we heard he was doing that, and I'll tell you when I finally did buy one. It was actually maybe a little bit after the release. I knew that I wanted this thing, but it wasn't until I saw the Kickstarter video that I was totally sold on the thing. In fact, I've got a little bit of that video right now, but I want to kind of set it up for you a little bit. It's easy to say, oh, I'm into high resolution. You have a lot of artists even say that now, even though some of them don't even really know what it means. And when Neil started this thing, most of them really didn't know what high resolution audio was. Maybe they had never even heard it. They were interested in making, you know, notes and singing, right? It was like that was their whole existence. But Neil really got in with the artist community, and by him just letting them listen to the results he was getting off Pono, which he was getting up to 24:192 resolution at that point, had really gotten like almost everybody on board. I'm gonna play about, I don't know, maybe like a minute of this video, minute and a half of this video, and just so that you could see the kind of people that Neil had behind this project. We thought it was just like way cool. I personally saw this as a huge leap for high resolution audio, period, on every single side. And I wish that that momentum could have kept up. But really, to have something like this happen, you would have had to have a name, really, like Neil Young, to be able to command this kind of an audience. So Neetha, if you would, why don't you put on the video, and then we'll come back with Phil.
Listening to all of the music in the different formats, you know, iTunes and high resolution and CD, and then Pono, to say that right, Pono. It was a very striking comparison, and very obvious to even my ears. You know.
There's no doubt between MP3 and 192 that there's a huge leap in information on paper, and a huge leap in quality that you're going to hear.
When you switch from 192 to CD, you're like, whoa!
So it just like locks the low end off.
You know, you listen to the CD, it's like listen to someone twinging on a fucking rubber band compared to, you know, the full scope of what music is.
It's true that CD quality and MP3 quality, above all, or under all, is simply not, it doesn't, it doesn't give us back what we put down.
When you listen to like the CD version or the MP3 version, it's gone through those changes. It's sort of lost that original intention.
For the convenience and the portability of an MP3, oh, they're great. But it's a little bit like seeing a Xerox of the Mona Lisa.
The sound has just gotten so bad, and people don't care about that anymore. The drums don't even sound like drums anymore. And this sounds like basically like you have a record player in your car.
I listen to vinyl a lot, and I think this is the only other time I've heard a digital experience that equals that or goes beyond that.
Starting to sound like a really amazing, warm, dynamic analog recording.
That blew me away. It was like being in a recording studio. It was like we were listening to Bob Dylan. You could hear him playing harmonica right next to you. You could hear the drums and the backing vocals on Respect by Aretha. I haven't heard a sound like that since vinyl. And it's so impressive and it's so brilliant to hear that.
So, I mean, this video goes on for like, I think it's better than 11 minutes. And it is just like, left, right, left, right, left, right. It's like with all these sorts. I was thinking that the Tom Petty was in there on this particular one, but it wasn't. But Tom's in there. And there's a few people that aren't with us anymore that are on this video, but all huge names. And every one of these guys, Neil, and ladies, lots of ladies in this as well, Nora Jones and a whole lot of others are all coming on basically saying the same thing, that, oh my God, I can't believe what I'm hearing. This is really, to me, the absolute definition of what the artist intended. I mean, that gets thrown around. We talk about this in meetings from time to time, Phil, and that term gets thrown around so much. We just won't even hardly use it. But this was one of those, let's not just tell you how good it is. Let's let the artists themselves take a listen to their own music in high resolution and see what they say. And just artist after artist after artist, where it was the same thing. It just totally. But that is when I watched that video and I went, take my money. Boom. I think a lot of people did. But if you think about this, if that had been something that had been a snowball and continued to roll, we would be so much further along with high resolution than we are right now. It's, but I'm thankful that Neil really kind of got it started. How about you?
Well, I am too. I didn't know how we would feel. So for those that don't remember, and there's probably not that many in the audience, the product had a very successful Kickstarter campaign, raised $6 million. But of course, that's in Kickstarter dollars. That's not money to the project. It's a commitment to deliver that. In that case, it was about 15,000 units. And what was left over was available to do finish the development. So, but technically it was a success. We came up with a very cost-effective, very, very high-quality design. In fact, I think AudioFile magazine basically has been using that as sort of the reference against which it compares other players to. Very, very high quality. It was developed in conjunction with Air Acoustics, AYRE, which is,
that's when Charlie Hansen was still alive.
That's when he was alive, right? Mm-hmm. That was his project,
and Charlie was brilliant.
He was brilliant, and that he was responsible for the design, and we executed it, built it, and we sold. We sold in the mid 20,000s over the course of, but we didn't have enough money to market it. It got some negative press just because of Neil, and a lot of skepticism about high res, which many of you that listen in the audience probably have heard, and but overall technically success, commercially was not successful. So when it was all over, when Neil we were in business for about 3 years and did a lot of work to sell it and promote it and support it. And when it was all over, I didn't know how Neil would react. And I thought he would be kind of discouraged or disappointed. And he wasn't. He came to me and he said, Phil, people, we came out just at the same time that streaming was taking off, and streaming offered a lot of convenience. And he understood that people wanted convenience. And he said, if people want streaming, let's figure a way to do high-res streaming. And so he just pivoted right to his next cause, and that was to be able to deliver all of his music in high streaming quality. And at the time, there was no technology. The technology was there, but it was limited by your bandwidth, sending 196.
Yeah, at that time, this is an estimate, but it's somewhere right around here. But at that time, I think the average internet speed was somewhere around 2.5 megabits, kilobits per second, which is like way, way low. You can do adaptive streaming like that, but if you ever try to stream anything, even like 2496 with 2.5
that's right,
kilobits per you're megabits per second. I'm sorry. It's never gonna happen, right? So
that's right.
The way I looked at it was Neil was actually breaking ground for what I'm doing right now. This was like a hard frozen ground. People had been listening to MP3 at that point for a good 10, 15 years. We lost a whole generation, right? So Neil is digging in this ice, basically this ice dirt, and softened the dirt for companies like Tidal that came in first with a full
CD quality,
CD quality, and Deezer, and then finally with companies like us. Well, we've got this huge technological advantage that you guys didn't have back then, which is we're the average internet speed at least in the United States now. It's well over 20 megabits per second. That's
right.
Right.
What people didn't realize is high res audio, whether it was 96.24 or 192.24, high res audio took more bandwidth than most video. So
almost all video. That's a great point, Phil, because people ask me a lot. Well, I'm streaming Netflix. I could stream any audio, and what they don't really realize is that while Netflix may start off in HD, it might start off at super super high resolution. As bandwidth is depleted from, however, it's adaptive. So you're no longer getting HD. You just kind of switch down to normal resolution, but your eyes and your brain don't really realize it because they're so used to that sharp. When it kind of goes in and goes out, most people don't realize it. What happens with audio when it goes out, especially if you're not adaptive, if you're doing bit perfect like we do, if your internet goes down too low, it doesn't adapt and start streaming 1644. It just cuts out. So
exactly.
Timing is, as you know, timing is everything.
So Neil found a company called AuraStream that was doing adaptive audio. No one had really done that to any great degree. It hadn't been available. And so he said, we're going to get people, I want high res, and I'm going to put all my music on the web, and I'm going to allow people to listen to it in high res. And that was the beginning of NeilYoungArchives.com, which is where he lives now and where he puts all his effort. And that's where all the music, he has pretty much all of his music, things that were published, things that were not published, along with video. And that was sort of the foundation for this amazing website.
I want to talk about this website because we're going to go through this. We're actually, Neetha actually has this pulled up, but what we're going to do this after this little segment that I'm about to bring out. So Neetha, you can take that down for just a second, but be ready to bring it back up, okay? This just goes so well with the segment that we've got coming up right now. You and I are going to take a little bit of a break, and we're going to bring on our managing director. You remember Dan?
Sure.
So Dano is going to come on and talk a little bit about some of the high resolution Neil Young recordings that we've got right now. I got to tell you, when this happened, it was only a few weeks ago, right? When this happened, we're all like jumping up and down, yelling to the top of our lungs, we got Neil in 24-192. It's incredible. And so I think for the next week or so, that's all we did was talk about, oh, did you hear this cut? Did you hear this cut? So let's bring Dan on, let him talk a little bit about the collection, and we'll let you take a break for a few minutes and get this guy on here. Okay, we'll see you in just a few minutes. Okay. All right, let's bring on Dan Makta. How are you doing, buddy?
I don't get to talk to Phil, or I get to talk to him later.
I don't know. I was kind of keeping Phil away from you. It's the last time it didn't go so good. So
trouble.
Yeah. So we're both going to drop out, Dan, because I don't want to take away anything from this segment. And the reason I asked Dan to be here is Dan has been in the music business his whole life. He knows more about music than, most anybody that I know. Between he and Sujan, they've got definitely the deepest music encyclopedic knowledge that we have in our company. So I'm gonna get out of here, believe it or not, and shut up, if you can believe it, and let Dan do his thing. Dan, thanks for being here and doing this.
No, I'm just such a huge Neil Young fan. I mean, just one of my foundational artists, and working at Qobuz has brought it into stark focus, and realizing that everything Neil ever said about sound quality was true, and hearing it with my own ears. So yeah, this whole escapade of really, it was fixing a couple of elements that were keeping Qobuz from having the whole sorry guys, of course I'm getting a call. I never get calls on that line until I'm live, but the barriers were lifted, and let me see if I can mute it. Sorry. Jeez, the guy is very leave a message, voicemail. It's a recent innovation, but don't keep calling. Leave a message. Maybe the guy is listening to this live stream right now. I doubt it.
I think it's Neil. I think that was Neil. You just blew it.
Yeah, no. The fact of the matter is, like you were saying, it was sometime in the last month, really, all of this catalog, and it wasn't just Neil stuff. It was a bunch of other classic back catalog that we had previously only had in 2496. Boom. There it was. And it was probably one of the greatest days of my life. Now, of course, you can listen to it all the Neil stuff anytime in the Neil Young archives in the best available quality. But I like to think of Qobuz as a nice compliment, because if you love Neil, we've got that. But, if you love Billy Joel,
I was just on it night before last, and I was absolutely blown away with the amount of music that Neil's got up there, and it really is in very, very good quality. But it's just amazing. Not only the music, and we'll talk about this with Phil in a little bit, but so many articles. It's just a great.
It's the context. Neil is on the same page as us, which is that if you're really into the music, it's not just about listening to the music. It's about looking into the backstory, and I can't get enough of looking at the scans of the old set lists and napkins from a hotel room, and an old ticket stub. I mean,
articles that he's writing tons of articles himself on that.
Yeah, I mean, it's incredible. And at the end of the day, I think, if Qobuz went away, if all the music in the world went away and the only stuff left was Neil's music, it'd be more than enough. You could spend a whole lifetime on the Neil Young archives and not see and hear everything there is to offer. So
yeah, there's definitely some desert island albums on there that you would just absolutely have to have. I would have been fine at 1644 if that's all I could have got, but having them at 24-192, I'm just like elated. Folks, if you have not heard the high-res Neil stuff, go on the archives, take a listen to it. If you're on Qobuz, look up Neil. You'll see all kinds of stuff at 24-192. Now, I promise I'm going to leave because I want to hear what you've got to say.
All right. Well, I was going to highlight a couple of the releases that I think are just, you can't miss. And I've been spending a lot of time with the Archives, Neil Young Archives Volume 2 box set that, we've got on Qobuz, I think as of last week. Of course, Neil rightfully releases this stuff whenever he wants on the archive, on his Neil Young Archives site, and in the app for the subscribers, you get early access. But we eventually get them at Qobuz, and this box set, I mean, I don't know how many hours of music it is, but I spent an entire weekend listening to nothing but this box set, and there was still more to listen to at the end of the weekend. And some of the music from this period is pretty heavy and not light listening, but I just never heard it this good and this up close. And if you're going to get into some of this really intense music, you couldn't imagine. I mean, I felt like Neil was sitting right in front of me playing these songs just for me in a way that, I mean, I think I messaged the entire Qobuz team like with a track number. I said, you got to listen to this right now on your best possible system, because it blew me away. So it's highly recommended. And the magic of streaming, you can listen to it at your convenience. Then a couple of weeks before, one of my all-time favorite albums was actually newly remastered, a fresh reissue. I believe, what was it, the 50th anniversary of the album? Could that be right? Anyway, the album, just a foundational desert island disc for me. When I first, found it as a teenager, probably as a used record in my local store, a little bit beat up, and I couldn't quite tell if the cover was beat up or if this is the way the cover was supposed to look. And, really captured my imagination. And to hear the album in this new pristine remix remaster, again, in 24/192, it's just like, wow, right? This is it. Wow. So again, highly recommended. And whether you're listening on Qobuz or in the Neil Young Archives, makes no difference. It's going to blow you away. And then I also wanted to mention one that is coming up. And this one is a new live album. We've heard just a couple of tracks, pre-release, incredible early 70s live Neil, pristinely recorded. If you're maybe on the Neil Young Archives, I haven't looked, maybe it's already out. Actually, after the show, I'm going to look and see. Maybe it's there, but we're getting it on Qobuz in a couple of weeks, and I just can't wait. This is, like I said, if the only music in the world was Neil Young, we would say, God, thank you. You've been too kind to us. If that was all, Dayenu.
Dayenu. I knew you were going to say that.
How did you know that's where I was going? That would have been enough. But that's what makes life, even in some of the hardest times, bearable, is we've got all this music at our fingertips.
Speaking of the early live stuff,
I thought you were going to say, speaking of Passover, and we're going to talk about the symbols on the Seder plate. But anyway, go ahead.
That's next show. We're not gonna do that on this show, Dad. I already told you.
Right, Passover special.
Live recordings. If you've never heard Live at Massey Hall, this is one that is guaranteed to make the little hairs on the back of your neck stand up. It's one of the best live recordings that I've ever heard, especially from sort of a rock kind of a guy, because most of the rock artists, it just seemed like in that time period they didn't really care. It's like, I'm going to play what I'm going to play, and you record it, and then I'm going to go home and get stoned or whatever. Neil's recordings, even back to 71, totally blow me away. And I'm really, really picky with that kind of stuff, right? But if you listen to Live at Massey Hall, you close your eyes and you are there. It's you just hear all of the nuance, especially when you're in high res. You not only hear the decay of the instruments, but when I say you're there, you hear the decay of the room. It's absolutely fascinating, and one of my absolute favorite live albums. And Cowgirl in the Sand on live at Massey Hall is definitely my favorite tune on there. But if you haven't listened to it, either go to the archives, the Neil Young archives, or Qobuz, and get ready to be totally amazed. And at this point, you absolutely understand how Neil is into high resolution, because even his lower resolution stuff, if you listen to that in 16-bit, it sounds fantastic. You listen to it 24 and you're in a totally different place. So Dan, thank you so much for coming on and sharing.
Yeah, no problem. I feel like it was getting pretty deep. It's not the usual music desk with, the latest hot and sexy new releases. This was a little bit more introspective, but that's how important the music is to us. And Neil's music specifically, super meaningful, and it we're like honored to be able to present it on Qobuz the way we do. And
couldn't agree more.
Happy that Phil came on. Bring Phil back in.
I was going to say, why don't you hang out with us for a bit? I know Dan is always terribly busy with running Qobuz. That's what he does. But hey, hang out with us as long as you can, and we'll talk about the archives and the book. I definitely want to get into the book in just a little bit, but for right now, Miss Neetha. Oh, before we go any further, I do want to let you know that we're giving away some stuff, right? We're giving away the book that we'll be talking about, the one that was co-authored by Phil and Neil. We're also giving away some subscriptions to Qobuz, and also a few subscriptions to the Neil Young Archives. So Phil, thank you so much for doing that for us, for doing that for our listeners.
Sure, I'm happy to do so. Let me just say one thing more about high-res music. One of the things, we all talk about high-res because we want to enjoy it. We feel it's the way to listen to music. But there's another factor that I never realized that Neil is so passionate about, and is behind his effort to get people to use and listen and buy high-res, because a lot of his musician friends never realized that, never paid much attention, and he found out that they were recording in CD quality because the music industry just found it was a cheaper way to do it. And he was concerned that what that meant was, if people no longer listen to high res, they're no longer aware of it. What it means is all future recordings are going to be done at a lower quality, and there's going to be little care taken to preserve the existing high res content, because no one's listening to it, no one cares about it, no one keeps monitoring whether it's degrading, whether it has to be maintained. So this whole effort to bring high res to everyone is also will benefit the preservation of music the way it was originally recorded throughout history.
Totally agree. Yeah, hopefully that's gonna. It really is, Phil. It's happening more and more these days. But there's got to be a leader. There's got to be someone who sticks the stick in the sand and going, look, this is where we are right now. This is where we want to be at some point in the future. And I think Neil helped just through his clout. I think he helped that go along. Dan and I talk about this frequently, that if you listen to music that's recorded today, like even rock music today, that people are doing a better job at recording music than they ever have before. Do you know this guy named Bill Schnee? I think you do, right? Recording engineer for, I don't know, Steely Dan and Thelma Houston. I mean, he's got like 500 albums out there, like 50, 60 Grammy winners. He told us on the show, in fact, he's going to be here next week, because I like to get it from the engineer's perspective. He told us not long ago, the first time I ever heard, he said it like this: the first time the glass was removed between the band and myself, was when the first time I recorded in 24 192, and that just like I loved hearing that. But the more so many awesome recordings are coming out these days, and most of the ones that we're getting now, and some of this thanks to Neil, it's in high resolution. Most of the stuff these days it's high res, and it's sounding great.
Well, thanks to you guys too. One of Neil's efforts, he started streaming his music in 192, but there was nothing else out there, and I think he was influential in getting Amazon to move when they came out with their HD service to go to high res. And then when you guys came out, you guys were actually out before, and I think that led to you becoming more competitive because you had competition, and that really opened up it to, I mean, you know, Qobuz is what I listen to. I know it's what Niels listens to because it's authentic, it's pure, and it's simple. It's easy to understand. It's 192.24 everything, and there's none of the multi tiers that you have to deal with some of the other services. And so you guys are the leaders, and you know, small companies can make a big difference in this industry.
Thank you so much. I mean, I can't tell you how humbling that is hearing from someone like you. So, you know, thank you very much. Let's get into the archives, because really we want to talk a good bit about that, and we'll end up finishing the show from this. But this is really a big reason that we're here, is to talk about the thing that Phil is doing. And you know, Dan was actually the first guy that turned me on to this. I've been so narcissistic with Qobuz over the last couple of years. So I was maybe a year ago. He's going, "Oh, you need to go to the Neil Young archives," and I'm going, "I'm a huge Neil Young fan. What are you talking about?" He turns me onto this thing, and I'm going, "You've got to be kidding me!" So Dan and I are just going to kind of let you talk us through this. Neetha is going to be switching screens as you're talking about them, Phil. And it's usually about a little bit of a delay. So let's give this a whirl. But I wanted our people that are watching this to see what you got going on here, because it is fascinating.
So there's several elements to the archives. The home screen is a file cabinet drawer, and the other elements are a timeline, and you can access content, music from either one. You can go open the drawer and look through the files, and you can scan through the number of years. You can click on one of the tabs and pull up an album and start listening to it. If you click on one of those, just like that, up comes the album, and
you could play like 3 seconds of it, Neetha, if you would. No, never mind. Don't worry about it. Yeah, don't. But if you are logged in, it sounds incredible. And you can also buy it here too. Remember, we were talking a little while ago, when you're streaming, you know, God bless, have a great time, but just think about the artists behind the streaming. So you can buy the recordings here as well.
The other thing is, if you hit the newspaper icon at the top of the screen, to the right a little bit, that little no, to the right, just to the left of that. Yeah,
there you go.
So that's a newspaper where Neil writes every day, and there's articles about all sorts of things, including how to get the best listening out of your phone and your computer. And you know, we talk about DACs, and we try to keep it simple. It's not necessarily for audio files. It's for, Neil wants to bring high res to the masses. It's something that is not, he doesn't like it to be considered an elite form of application. It's for everybody. Everyone can appreciate it. And
I really appreciate that, Phil. It's really, I think, the good way to say this is Neil is writing this for music lovers. That's what I get when I see it. It just happens to have the best quality sound as well.
And he's adding outtakes. He's adding bootleg content, and there's a whole library of video as well. If you go to the top right of the newspaper, it says Movie Tone in yellow, way to the right. Hit Movie Tone. And that's a new page that was just added where we have the ability to access all his videos. If you scroll down a little bit, you'll see a bunch of videos. And the basic membership is $19.99 a year. If there's a Rust level, which is $39.99, which came out this week, and that gives you access to all of these concerts, full-length movies as well. And the other thing we've added is, 3 different tiers. The 99 is a patron level, and that's brings with it the same benefits as the Rust tier, but it's for those that are supporting his effort, because this is not an effort to make money. This is really a labor of love.
Right. I was going to say that pricing is incredible to be able to get all those long form films, concert movies, all that stuff for $40 one shot. I mean,
that's
a no brainer. I mean, if you're into Neil.
If you go to the timeline, now that's the other place to explore, and that's the icon in the top middle, right there. Yeah, timeline. So that's, and you can slide. There's a slider there in the middle.
This is a cool part of the site. I love this.
And you can slide, and I'm not sure why the albums don't show, but
some latency with the
latency, yeah. But anyway, all the albums show up there. All his concerts show up there, and you're going to be able to listen to concerts as well. And you basically go to any year and able to see it. So why don't you go to the bottom right, zoom out? That was the problem. You were zoomed in. So if you go back to timeline and down to the bottom right, zoom out. And now you'll see all the albums populating, books and everything. And then you can click on any of those albums and access music that way. So, and there's I don't know, probably 100 elements on that timeline, 100 audio selections along with other access. And then once you get into an album, you can look at his notes, you can look at lyrics, you can look at some history behind it. And this week we've added all of his concerts to the timeline as well. So you'll be able to know when he went on tour. If you remember going to one of his concerts, you can actually add a note to the concert and let other people remember what you recalled about that date. So it's very interactive. And in the newspaper, Neil also writes and answers letters every week. So people write into him, and he's very, diligent about it. He reads every letter that comes in and answers many of them. So that's the way people communicate with him. And he's really dedicated. This is all something he wants to give to his fans. It's not meant to be a source of revenue. It's meant to give back to his fans in exchange for what they've given him over the years. And that's, his fame and recognition and appreciation.
I would think you could make some money. You should go to like Pete Townsend and say, Pete, don't you want this for The Who? And
I was just thinking the
go
same.
to Clapton and go to these guys and say, we'll sell you the back.
He would love to do that.
Every artist
should have it.
That's right.
Every artist should have this. It's such a unique way to show it. It's super, super easy. There's no ambiguity to the website. I mean, it just everything it says what it is right there. And I often talk about going into musical rabbit holes because it's just so easy to do with Qobuz. This is like this is definitely rabbit holes within rabbit holes within rabbit holes. You'll go to one article and you'll end up reading 15 articles just from the little sidebars and that kind of thing.
That's right.
So yeah, it's super interesting. But what I'm really most impressed with is that Neil is reading and responding to the letters. That says a lot.
Oh, yeah,
Right?
that's important. No, he gets them every week, and so it's why he was why he's spending all this time. You know, he did get off Facebook because he didn't like Facebook, and we actually spent quite a bit of time on our website removing the Facebook sign-in. You know, once Neil found, you know, he's very has some strong causes, and that's one of them. And so he says, if you want to find me, come to the archive. That's where I'll hang out. That's where I'll be. That's how you can talk to me. And so that's his replacement for Facebook, and it's really a labor of love.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you, it's very much appreciated, you know, from this fan, and I can't imagine anyone that actually, anyone that likes Neil Young, that this is going to be a really, really cool site to be on. Lots and lots of info.
So last year he and Neil and I wrote a book together to kind of tell this whole story that we covered today in brief. And
This is actually the book that we're giving away too, guys. So yeah, we were just about to hop into that. It's fantastic.
Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, let's go ahead and talk about it. Neith, I think we've got a shot of the book. Yeah. So why don't you tell us tell us a little bit about the book? I love the premise of the book, by the way, but I want to hear it like straight from you.
So the book really tells two stories. It tells the story of Neil's effort to try to improve the audio quality of music, and his effort to try to develop the Pono and then the archives. And intermingled in that story is the story of Pono and what it took to develop a product, how it was to work with Neil, and what was behind it, the experience of going through the Kickstarter, coming out with the product, dealing with the, all the different kinds of press reactions to it, and dealing with people that are just skeptical about high-res music, who don't know better. And it's Neil and I alternate chapters pretty much. And it was a fun book to do. It was important book because I don't think the story's been told as clearly as I think that this book tells it. It's pretty straightforward. You know, some audiophiles might feel it simplifies things, but it really takes it to the level where most people can understand in common sense terms what's happening to music and why it's been unnecessary to compromise on music quality, and how Neil feels about albums and his experience. So it's a true to life story, and with all the ups and downs of developing a product and the experience of developing a product, and it was just a fun book to do together, and we're really proud of this book.
How long did it, from the start to the finish, how long did it take you guys? I guess Neil set you down sometime after the Pono thing was done, or maybe it was even during it, and said, "Hey, let's do this book together." When did that happen? And then from that day, how long?
Actually, what happened is when Pono was coming to an end, I was on vacation. My wife and I went to Nashville. We had never been there before, and we went to the one of the places we visited was the Nashville Musicians Hall of Fame Museum. And I was walking around, and this, I don't know if you've been there, but it's a wonderful place. There's a lot of exhibits. And as I walked around, I saw all these old gramophones and speakers and various sorts of things that were developed over the years to make music sound better. And something hit me at the point. I said to my wife, I said, over the years, going back to the 1800s, people have always been working to make music sound better and better. They've been building all these instruments and better speakers. And I now get what Neil's talking about. This is the first time in the history of music that quality is going backwards. And I said, I've got to tell the story. Neil explained it to me. Let's tell a story. And when I got back, I talked to Neil. I said, Neil, I think we should write a book together and explain.
Oh, so it was you that was saying.
It was my idea, and he said, "Let's do it," and we did. And so it took about 10 months to write the book, and we would each write our own chapters. We'd put them together, and we'd just work hand in hand, and here's the book.
So I'm not looking at what everyone else is seeing. I'm just concentrating on us. But Neetha, if you haven't put up the link to that book, could you please at least put it in the little chat so everyone could see it? I just ordered it. I didn't really have time before the show to watch it, which would have been, or to read it, which would have been the perfect time to read it. But it's good. It's so much fun talking to you and learning more and more about it. I can't wait to read it. Tomorrow, I'm going to be starting on this thing. So,
well, good. I hope you enjoy it, and hope others in the audience enjoy it. I think it'll bring home a lot of the messages that you all got. Everyone on this show probably have been trying to convey to their friends about the quality of music.
I mean, I read it as almost like a Bible for me, or something like a roadmap, to read, because I started at Qobuz. It came out about a year ago. The book was released, or some.
Yeah.
So I have a little bit of experience under our belts of getting this off the ground, and I learned a lot about the audio formats. I hadn't come into it as an audiophile, but I learned.
Same with me.
And then reading the book was just like I'm so close to it. Again, like to me, it was like reading an insider. But I think that would carry through to almost anybody, especially if you're curious about audio and some of the elements of this industry. There are a few audio industry personalities who make appearances in the book. I would say definitely is highly entertaining, especially if you know a little bit about all this stuff.
Yeah, I kind of know a little bit of what you're talking about. I can't wait to read the actual stories. And as far as both of you guys not being audiophiles, I love that. You know who makes the best audiophiles ever? Music lovers. There's a lot of people that love the gear more than they do the music, and that's fine. Everybody's got to have a hobby. But to me, the best audiophiles are made from the people that actually love and cherish the music more than anything. It's just like any one of us could walk into a grocery store, and on the PA system, on their little 70-volt system, we can hear that right song and get cold chills. It doesn't take $1 million system for me to be emotional about music. It takes the music. I just enjoy the music more when I've got a great audio system.
Well, thanks. To answer a question from Leonardo, who showed up, yes, there is an ebook available.
That's what I got, yeah.
And there's an audiobook as well.
Cool. Phil, do you read the audiobook? You and Neil read it, or it's professional?
No.
Great question.
I love your accent. I'd love.
Yeah, no, we didn't. I'm trying to remember the name of the personality that read it, but my mind is a blank. But he's a well-known actor, and he played the president on one of the shows on TV, and he's very good.
Martin Sheen, maybe?
No, I'm trying to remember.
So it would have been House of Cards, maybe.
No, it was the president on Veep, I think. And anyway, but he does a great job, and he tries to copy my Boston accent, not very well.
Right, I was going to say, yeah. Very distinctive.
But,
wow.
We appreciate everything Qobuz has done, and you guys have made a big impact, and for a small company, you made a huge impact, bigger than probably, certainly bigger than you brought Apple to shame, and you brought Spotify and the other companies to shame, and no one has caught up with you. So congratulations on what you've been able to accomplish.
It's been a labor of love, I can tell you that.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, we have a long way to go. We're still, still tiny, but trying to punch above our weight and focus on what we know and what we do best, and stay true to the foundational ideas of sound quality and respect for the artist and respect for the listener. And once you start with that, you can't go wrong.
And there's still a lot of disinformation out there, and we've got to keep correcting it.
We were just talking about that the other day, right? This guy is out there talking about how high res doesn't make any difference at all, and it's infuriating.
That's right. It is. And, even companies that purport to have high quality, Neil pulled all of his content off of Tidal last month because they purport to be high res. They talk about masters, and they're not masters. They're manipulated. They involve MQA, which is another subject for probably another broadcast, but nothing that helps the content. It's technology that really isn't relative. But whether you like it or not, Neil felt it was misleading by calling their files masters. He says there's only one master, and that's what he produces in the studio, and that's what you guys deliver on Qobuz, master quality. And when others try to put the master name on something different, he's gone. That's how strong he feels about the quality of music.
They grabbed the designation master, and now it doesn't have really the same meaning.
Well, that's right. And he's
concerned that the 24,192. That's what we get from the label, and that's what we stream. There's no, why add any confusion into the mix?
That's right. By the way, I just recall the name of the actor that reads the audiobook is Keith Carradine.
Yeah. Well, Neetha was already on that. You had almost not even had that out of your mouth the last time.
Good.
Yeah, she is so good. She just hopped right on it. She goes, well, this is who it is.
That's right, Madam Secretary. Thank you, Jennifer. That's right.
And Jennifer, I love Jennifer. She's a guitarist, a professional guitarist who is unbelievable. I'm sure she's quite a fan of Neil too.
Yeah, he does a good job. He does a better job than Neil or I would. Although I think people would rather hear Neil do the book.
I would like to hear Neil. Yeah, I kind of dig the lazy voice, that little thing, that Neil thing that he's got going on. It would be kind of cool, but
it probably
I'm really looking forward to it.
It would be a longer audiobook.
Yeah, probably so. But you guys are on those audibles and those kind of things, right? On some of the books, you like, okay, 1.5. Yeah, it's just not fast. So 2.5. I'm good. Okay, I can listen really, really fast.
That's correct. That's right. Exactly.
So what have we're pretty much past the top of the hour. I wanted to thank you for being here. It's been a really, Phil, it's been a real honor having you, and you'll have to come back again when we can maybe talk about some of the new features or whatnot. But I don't want to hold you forever. But what have we not talked about that you think we should cover before we let you go?
Just looking at my notes, which the first time, I think we've covered pretty much everything. I think I did a good job scanning the area, and I think we just need to, keep pushing and keep supporting each other. And, the best way to promote high quality audio is to encourage more competition. I know none of us, you don't probably want more competition, but
no, actually we're fine with it. Well, I mean, really, that sounds maybe a little marketing.
But you were, but
we are. The more that's in it, the more people know about it. I will
That's
get
right.
out.
That's right. And I think the next area of importance is, okay, you now get Qobuz on your computer or whatever. How do you get the best out of that? And we start talking about DACs, and Neil has put a couple of articles up on the website about DACs. By the way, people can go to the website without paying anything and access the newspaper and listen to a song of the week and so forth. So they still have access to move around and see what they're missing. And then if they want to listen to some stuff, they can sign up.
It's just NeilYoungArchives.com. I don't think we ever said the
right. That's right. NeilYoungArchives.com. And in the newspaper on page 6, there's a lot of stuff about. In fact, Dan, you wrote an article about Qobuz, I think, a while back. And anyone that wants to write, let me know and have something good to say, and we can add it to the newspaper. So we try to give people an indication of how to get the best out of their phone. You might get 192.24 coming into your iPhone, but you don't get out of it without having to do a little bit of work. And that's where getting a portable DAC attached between that and your headphone can make a big difference. So that's the area where Neil is focusing right now.
Yeah, the basic education, you got to know a little bit, if you know just a little bit, you can get incredible sound.
That's right. But no one makes it easy. The computer companies don't make it easy to, change the settings, and Apple has restrictions on what you can plug into the phone. So there's a few little hurdles to get over, but they're pretty simple. And once you do that, you'll have terrific sound everywhere you go.
Yeah, and we're total experts at that kind of thing. So if any one of you have any questions or need help on DACs or recommendations, we don't work for any manufacturer, but I've used probably 100, 120 DACs in my day, anywhere from about $99 up to the one that I've got on my desk right now is about $16,000, but in everywhere in between. So if you are a little confused about high res or the best way to do it, you can either join us on Qobuz on social, or I run a page called Streaming Music Matters. We'd love to have you there, and tons of experts on just about any subject audio wise. And one of my big rules is don't confuse people. Don't use marketing terms. Let's just tell people the right way to do things. And there's also all kinds of wonderful music recommendations there. Phil, I don't know if you're on Facebook or if you took Neil's lead, but if you are, I would love to have you join us.
Yeah, unfortunately, I'm not. I am on. I'm on Twitter, P Baker, PBAKER, and I've sacrificed going off Facebook, but I missed it for a year. I don't know. So
yeah, no,
we'll find other ways.
You're probably smarter to do it. I mean,
now it's a necessity for many companies.
Right, right. But I guess we just mentioned one more time the contest. People should enter to win a free copy of the book, and we're giving away some free Qobuz and Neil Young Archive subscriptions. So get in there and enter. I guess we'll close the entries after the show and pick a winner later tonight. So
excellent. Well, terrific.
Dan, you have any finishing thoughts, or Phil?
No, but you said you're an expert on DACs. I'm going to ask you to write an article for us.
Yeah, I'd be glad to. I write them all the time, and we'll be more than happy to. Anything that we can do for you guys, please don't hesitate. I feel like we're partners, certainly from our side to yours, and we appreciate any of the support that you guys have lent us. We could never say. I mean, what do you say about that? Thank you. It just doesn't seem like enough.
Well, thank you. This has been great. It's been a pleasure for me to be here and talk to your audience, and we're all of like mind about listening to great music. And thanks for bringing it so much great music to the world.
Well, you hang out backstage, and we'll be there in just a few minutes. I'm going to go ahead and close out the
That's fine.
show. But Phil, thank you so much for being here.
Thanks, everyone. Thank you.
Thanks, Phil. We'll talk soon.
All right, folks. Thank you for joining us for another Qobuz Live. This one was so much fun. I'm looking forward to having Phil back again because I really want to get into some of the stories in both of these books that are going to be incredibly interesting. And I'll be a little more prepared because at that point I will have both books under my belt. But thanks again to the Neil Young Archives. Thanks to Phil Baker, to Neil, Dan, thank you for being here, and Neetha Virapur, thank you so much for, as always, for producing and doing such a great job. I know you were really hopping today, so thanks very much. And everyone, have a wonderful weekend, and we will be talking to you soon. Next Thursday with Bill Schnee. That ought to be a lot of fun. Take care.